capture on the mic.
All righty, once again, we are back for another Tavernside Talks episode. Tonight we will be discussing monsters across the mini planes. Sadly, we do not have our DM Logan here to discuss monsters and things like that nature. He is doing other things. I think he is on vacation or something, but we do have a couple.
We keep close. We keep in touch.
Yeah, we love our homies. I don't know where
we have an approximation of what he's doing right now.
But yeah, so we're just going to talk about kind of some of the favorite monsters we've used against, in our games and against our players, and then kind of some homebrew stuff, and then just kind of discuss the various aspects of monsters and whatnot. And then I know Logan had a monster he wanted us to bring up, and we'll kind of just see what that entails. But I mean, yeah, and then obviously we still have Knox, who's just racked out, and of course Connor, who is here to discuss. So
I'm also racked out.
Yeah,
but I'm here.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me just make sure all audio is functioning.
I make sure I am also paying attention to what I have in front of me. Yep. Those all look like words. All right,
everything is good on that end. Cool. So, I mean, without further ado, I think we should just jump right into this. Connor, what is one of your favorite monsters in D&D?
I already said it on one of the prior Tavernside Talks, so I will go right into it. And that'd be the Shades, or I normally refer to them in games as Shadows. But Shades, which, let me pull it up here. It's like CR, like...
Real quick for the stream, which book is it and what page?
Oh, sure. Well, I got it right here, and if you're gonna ask me that for all of them, it's gonna take a minute because I have a lot of them. But it is just in the monsters, the actual just D&D monster manual. It is page 269. Which is part of the reason it's my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah. But Shadows, I've seen them. Sometimes you look it up online, Shades, these will come up as well. But yeah, they're challenge rating 1/2. But they're just super fun to add, especially a little volume of them to a lower level party. I think one of our first campaigns, there was a collection, I think 5 of you at 3rd level. And I had these guys run up on you guys.
I think this was in that keep, when we were trying to go through the mountain mountain fort.
Yeah, but they're just a lot of fun. For one, there's the amorphous ability, which I think a number of things have. A lot of elementals have it, especially liquid elementals. A lot of goos have this, but just the ability to just a written ability is like they can move through like any space that is at least 1 inch wide. So just like being able to just like come out through like cracks and crevices in the walls, like if you hear a wall of stone is like shattered in a keep or something, that is like an interesting fact until black smoke starts oozing out of it, and and normally that would communicate environmental danger. Then the environmental danger becomes humanoid and starts swinging. So there's always just having new things with your monsters is having something written on the character sheet, I guess, that gives it a little bit of a show, especially a creature in this case. If it's being shown, it should be at least a little bit unsettling because the language of it is anything killed by a shadow eventually rises as one. So just they're by their nature creepy as hell.
Well, and I think it's also really cool because these kind of creatures like this, where you can really like an ability like that specifically, you can really use that to kind of as a trap or as a all of a sudden an ambush or something that's say creepy or spooky. All of a sudden now you're walking through something and all of a sudden these shadows come out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, the adventurers close the gate in front of them and we're safe, and they just morph through the gate. It's
exactly.
And again.
And I know you mentioned also one of the things you liked about them was that they reduce the strength score of a creature.
Yeah. Their main action, their one actual attack is strength drain.
Yeah.
Which when it hits, by the way, it's 2d6 plus 2, which is not small, especially if you're throwing out low level parts.
Exactly.
If you roll high on those, you're doing 14, right? The average is 9, as it helpfully says in the book. I didn't do the math.
Nice.
But let's see make sure I have the actual rule here. But yeah, the target strength score is reduced by 1d4. There's no save for it. If you're hit by this, it drops by 1d4. So, like, obviously, you can have these guys ambush the wizard, have 3 of them hit him, and he's just dead. Just flat dead. Because, again, any score hit 0, you're just dead. You could do that, but, like, as a DM, what you want to do is throw it at your paladin, your fighter, your barbarian. You want to throw it at the strong guys, who can take the HP hits, but as soon as the strike number goes down, when a different number, as I said last time, when a different number on your character sheet goes down, a fixed number, you have to add, actually, temporarily, it's this.
Right.
It adds a whole new dimension. Like, these, I wouldn't say use these in the place of goblins. Don't use them in the place of, like, bandits. But, like, when used on special occasion, or, like, maybe as a minions for higher level, like, bosses, these guys are running around in there.
Well, exactly.
They add a priority to the fight. Like, yeah, this guy's, throwing fireballs. There's this, like, there's an archer over here with a duck behind, but we also cannot ignore the shadows. Because if they land on us, we're taking permanent debuffs. We're not more permanent until you rest, but debuffs.
Well, what's also kind of crazy too is that is the big thing about these kind of creatures too is that, like, yes, they only have 16 hit points, but the damage resistance honestly doubles what they have. Like, unless obviously they have magical items, but usually if you have a low level party, they won't necessarily have a whole, like, vast array of of weapons or spells or anything, and so this just automatically kind of makes it that much better. But it almost kind of gives them that variability of, like, you can do it as a low level and it's kind of a higher threat, or you can do it as a high level and they might get, like, those resistances might get punched through, but then you can, like, throw more at them or whatever it is. And I do really enjoy creatures that are really fleshed out like this, that are on the lower spectrum of play, because sometimes it feels like they're level 1 or 2 or 3, and then you say, okay, I have, like, goblins I can throw at them, like, or like kind of some, like, mid-range, like low level things. But Shadow is a very unique low level creature that does very unique things, but it's not so overpowered that, like, it just breaks the encounter or it just kills your party outright. You throw, like, 1 or 2 of these in, it can still be a very, very big threat, but it's not anything that'll, in theory, kill anybody, unless,
Well, I think this, because Shadow, I feel like a similar one, Banshee, which is higher CR, but a similar type thing. Like, a Banshee's kind of would be like a monster to, like, a boss to a low level party, whereas the Shadow would be like a group fight for a low level party. But Banshee has that one ability where it screams that is like save or suck for the whole party. So if you fail on that roll, I'd have to double check because I'm doing this off memory. I can't remember precisely what Banshee does.
Let's look it up. Let's see.
Yeah, but I do know it is one of those things that when you are hit by it, you are just kind of screwed. Banshee is page 23.
Okay, yeah, great.
Same book. Got it. Okay, no, I don't have it.
Banshee, yeah, 58 hit points, challenge 4.
The whale, the 1-a-day whale.
Yeah. All creatures other than within 30 feet here must make a DC on a fail save. Creature drops to 0 hit points. Oh shit.
Yes. Which again is like one of those things where it's like, that is a cool. I think if you're trying to make a campaign like that, you plan a campaign to have something like a Banshee in it, like something where it's like, hey, like you guys have 3 more clerics than you need. Good, we're gonna throw a Banshee at you. Again, we're talking about like more hardcore versions of play, where it's like, yeah, maybe the inclusion of a monster that is like that, as long as it's well communicated. You're going to like a haunted community where the people are just dead around you, and like this thing's residing inside, something like that. Well, so the Shadow, I think, is a better version of like a group fight type thing where it has like a unique ability, but it is not just gonna you're dead. Or
well, I think it'd be even kind of cool to pair them, like have a Shadow and then a Banshee, have like 3 Shadows and a Banshee or something. Like you could also do some pairing like that. But I think it is I find that like I wouldn't say overpowered, but very strong abilities like this. I find if they have a relatively low DC, I really like that kind of I think it balances it well. Hey yo, what's up, Eric? Welcome in. I find that because it's a DC 13, so at a higher tier of play, I mean, like you really have to roll like a 6 or something, because a lot of people have pretty high saving throws. But I think it is pretty cool. I think that it's a really cool. it's a really cool ability, and I think that like you obviously you got to kind of figure out how you want to put this into your game, and it can you just got to obviously be aware of the frustration of, like, if a player does get immediately clapped out, it can be kind of shitty. But it's one of those things where, like you were saying back to with the strength reduction, it's really cool to throw something unique in where it's like, I feel like with 58 hit points, AC 12, it's like, say one person goes down or two will go down, it's like, oh, that's crazy, but it's not such a threat where now the rest of the party's in fear of getting annihilated. It's more like an insta down, kind of shifts the combat a little bit, and then you go forward, and it's not so crazy, but it's that immediate oh shit.
Yeah, the only thing I think I might do, and this is getting a little bit to the home rule things with the Banshee, but I think the only thing I might do is before you roll a death save, I'll let you re-roll the con to get out of that effect and come up at a 1 or a lower level of hit points. Right. Just because it's a fright, just because it's something that's you walk on a combat, maybe you didn't see it coming, whatever, then you just dropped. I think that is a good thing, but I think you're at 0 and now you're making death saves. And again, we went over some of our home rule ideas for death saves. It's this could be really bad depending on the situation. Where we're just Craig, and then Craig had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, Craig's just dead. Well,
we didn't have a cleric, we didn't have a med kit. We just watched Craig for a while, then just asphyxiated.
Well, and I really like that.
Craig, by the way, the best adventure name possible.
Yeah, absolutely. But... I do think I like that, and kind of going back to what we mentioned in the previous episodes is kind of giving, keeping the ability where it's going to be oh shit, but then you give your character another chance and that agency to be able to kind of, okay, you do get back up, because going to even 1 hit point is still insane, so wild, it's so it's really cool. And then Eric, we have Nox here in the tavern hanging out with us. Gotta have Nox. Yeah. But even similar damage resistance is very similar to the Shadow, but I do like these creatures. Also, we're not fighting Banshees. We're just talking about our favorite monsters at the moment.
You don't know that.
Indeed.
You don't know that.
Well, in the actual arc in the Red Mire Hunt, we will see. But as of right now, Connor's just bringing up some creatures he likes for no particular reason in a horror setting, and we're playing in a horror setting, so.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, you asked for this particular dialogue. That's where we're at.
It's
anyway,
just
the Bone Renderer.
Yeah.
No.
Wait. But yeah. And even the horrifying visage, they can frighten creatures.
Yeah, it still does average 10 damage if you pass. Let's see what the numbers.
Well, so I'm talking about for the other ability. The other ability, horrifying visage. Oh, what am I doing?
Oh yeah, it has a lot going on with it. Uh-oh.
What did I do? Here. Can I not highlight this anymore? Oh, there we go. I think I might have broken my PDF. Oh.
1 second. Let's make sure. I might drop here for a minute just because some pages aren't loading. But it looks like my internet's still good. Properties are still good.
Okay.
But just warning right now, and I'll get it reset if it's not. Just trying to.
No worries. And then is there anything else you wanted to discuss about these?
About these two, that's pretty much it. It's more of just again, just having a creature that does something fun, that does something different, because and especially something different in low tiers of play, because even the Banshee isn't that crazy when you really get into it.
Exactly.
If you're throwing it at the 5th level party, they're gonna do just fine. If you're throwing it at a 3rd level party, that's when things get crazy, and that's a boss. But a 5th level party, I think they can handle that pretty well. But it's just things for low tier play that have a lot of unique things going for them.
Exactly, and I think it's cool because, and this is something how I like about D&D too, is certain monsters are geared for certain levels of play. Like you were saying, with the Banshee, can be a boss for lower party members, or it can be just a filler monster at at higher levels of play. So it's really cool that you can kind of scale, and that and the monsters, they continue to have replayability when it comes to that. If you throw a monster at someone at a party once, goblins, right? You throw goblins at a party, goblins are iconic. You can keep doing it. You just kind of variable how they approach and how they attack. So it's very cool.
I totally agree. I like him. But more importantly, I'm interested to see, you mentioned you at least had a monster.
Yes.
Let's see what you had.
I will. So, one of my all-time favorite monsters, which I actually finally got to use on our Through the Frost Trail arc, and I just threw a bunch of these at the party, and it was quite the fight. But the Remorhazes. I love these. Okay, first of all, first things first, I love these monsters because of how they look. They just purely based off their looks and physique and everything about them,
Yeah.
is just this horrifying, just giant insect, and it's just like the coolest looking thing.
There is a huge amount of, I think, I would say, sway that the artists have in these books. So it's just like, we're gonna make this one look badass.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I don't care about the stats now. Like, it's going in.
Like, yeah, the only thing I wish in the fight was that I had actual Remorhaz minis instead of having to use like a stand-in on Tailspire, because man,
when I find a source for that stuff, I'll let you know. I've been looking into getting like porting 3D objects as minis into Tailspire. So when I find those, I'll let you know.
Yeah, because they allow open, or they allow the modding and stuff now. Yeah, or they support.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's really cool.
It's not quite Steam Workshop, but better. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I do really like from just a designer standpoint for this stuff is I really like it when they do kind of have tiers of monsters. Like I really like when they have the offspring or have a different variant already built into the book. Kind of saves you a lot of trouble because it makes it so you don't have to just guess and be like, oh, I think let me just cut these stats down. So they have young Remorhaz and then they have the Remorhaz itself, which I really enjoy. The Remorhaz, I don't know, I just love it. I think the heated body mechanic is super cool. I think the fact that you just even like getting in close proximity and hitting at it and trying to take it down as a marshal, or or even just being in that proximity, say you're there, you take damage. I really like that. I think that's really cool. When a mechanic kind of to make me feel better when I have a AC 20 paladin or 21 paladin, you just have that chip damage, which is actually exactly what was happening in the Frost Trail. Sir Denric has stupid AC, so it's kind of cool to actually have him, kind of have him take that damage and just that flavor of like his armor like getting super heated and just starting to warm up. Man
was induced to induction heat.
Yeah, I think so. I will say this: I think that the swallow ability mechanic in D&D, I don't like it. I think that okay, so it just depends. I think the swallow can be cool. I think it needs to be adjusted. I think the damage threshold on what the creature takes for it to vomit, it needs to be adjusted. I was already thinking about this before we had this conversation, because I was trying to think about what I was going to talk about, and I think that either dropping the threshold of damage or lowering the DC for the con save, or getting rid of the DC for the con save, because I think it's a lot to put against the creature, because not only does it already hit you, which is a shit ton of damage, it's now swallowing you, which you're now then taking acid damage, and then the Remorhaz has to take 30 points of damage on a single turn, specifically
from inside.
Exactly. Dude, I was gonna say something I didn't even really realize until reading it over during that fight was that it's from inside. I was like, okay, that's even like crazier.
Especially in that particular case, just but I was the one swallowed, and like for one, I think I was just straight dead already. But I think even if I was alive, I don't think I could have, unless I got extremely lucky. But even then, I don't think there's any way for me to do 30 in a turn.
You were not swallowed. You were almost swallowed. It was it was almost.
I was in its mouth.
Yeah, you were in its mouth, and it did eat some of the Goliaths. But I think it's weird. I feel like it kind of gets weird for me too, because when you're inside a creature, it doesn't really go into it a whole lot as to like how being inside a creature necessarily works, unless I'm mistaken. In my opinion, if you're like slashing and doing any sorts of damage inside of a monster, I feel like you'd be doing more. I feel like
I would agree. Yeah.
I feel like you'd be auto critting, and I feel like it's just weird to like, because I don't know. I think that the swallow mechanic needs to be adjusted a little bit. I think having your character swallowed is really cool, and it can make for kind of what we're talking about, some interesting gameplay. We're like, oh, dude, little Timmy just got eaten. Then we need to like get in there and solve this problem. But I think it'd be better if maybe including the damage threshold from just in general, outside or inside, or maybe have a targeted attack, and then maybe adjusting the Constitution saving throw. But
if I can. Whenever you're ready, I do have actually a monster that I think is a really good response to the Remorhaz.
Okay. Yeah. Honestly, like, I just like that it's got very kind of real, like the damage immunity is just cool, because the cold and the fire. It's a very interesting, unique creature, because you have it where it's like, oh, it has a superheated body, so maybe if you use cold, then it then it'd be more effective. But then
Mhm.
it's in a cold environment, and so it's also
Right.
resistant because the cold. So it's just a really cool kind of dynamic creature. It's obviously a beefcake. It has AC 17, 195 hit points. It can burrow.
Yeah.
It has insane strength. Like its weapon attack is plus 11.
Which is kind of funny because I'm looking at the other monster here, as you said that, and it is a higher challenge rating, but with both lower armor class and lower hit point.
Right.
Yeah, and the Remorhaz is, I think, CR 11, punches above its weight, but also I think how you used it in that situation, just let it like really shine. It's like, this thing is not a slouch. This thing, it puts up insane damage, just area damage, and then a huge thing on the Remorhaz, which I found out to my absolute dismay, is it does the fire and the cold damage, but it has no vulnerabilities to. There's nothing on it that lets you double damage.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I thought it's a fire being hit it with the cold. It's like, fire's hot, Connor. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly. And I really like that. And I will say one of the things I feel like this does lack, which I did find out in the combat, which is good to know, is just that this thing is so beefy and it is such a powerful entity. But where it really lacks is its bite attack, because it only gets one. A lot of creatures up in the higher echelons, when it comes to like something like this, have usually multi-attack. But I think it can be a disadvantage depending on the situation you put it in. But it can also be very balanced in the sense of for our combat, like if it hits you, it basically took you out. Like it was one tapping creatures.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like, depending on how you want to the dynamic of the combat it's in, it can just one shot something. Which when you have a large group fighting, it's not a whole lot, but it's still enough to be like, oh shit.
Yes.
And then
I think also please go ahead.
And then just one last thing, I like the young Remorhaz and pairing it with that, to kind of, because that's what I think having one Remorhaz kind of as like an adult one, kind of letting it be like the main like entity, and then you do have that one single super strong attack, but then you pair it with one or two young Remorhaz to kind of give it more action economy as an encounter, and then I feel like you can find a really good blend.
Absolutely. I think one other thing that you did really well in that fight, because the Remorhaz being a horrible firebug living in an Arctic environment, being this horrific creature, is still an animal. There's a point in the fight where it's like, if this was just slugging it out, it would have went on so many more rounds. It would have gotten like crazy, and we might have died, but the Remorhaz certainly would have died. I think when you dropped to one, but like they're creatures at a certain point in the combat, they had what they needed, which was food, and they left.
Exactly.
And that's a really important thing, I think, for encounters, because I typically run a lot of either creatures or humanoids. So it is real, or I should say, not an animal, but a humanoid or something that is a lot worse. So normally the things are either like standing and fighting or like gonna cut away. But it's always good, like what type of monster are you using is a good thing to be aware of. Like, oh, is it gonna like stay here and just beat the shit out of you till one of you drops, or is it have an other reason for being there? Like,
exactly. Exactly. And that's one of those things where it kind of, it got one of the ox and then it retreated, right? Because it was getting its ass kicked, because a creature only knows so much in the capacity of like, oh, am I winning? Am I losing? Like, it's taking out creatures, but it sees all these various, these adversaries, and so it's, and it's taking damage, and so that's one thing I really like to look at when it comes to beasts and the monster specifically is intelligence and wisdom, because you can have a low intelligence creature, but with a higher wisdom, you can kind of play with that, or vice versa, low wisdom, high intelligence, so you also play with that a lot. So. I really enjoyed that fight, and I was really happy that I finally was able to use, because this was a creature that I constantly saw in the Monsters Manual, and I was like, I want to use these. And so when I had a level 8 party going through the freaking snow, I was I know what's happening.
I think one of those against a level 5 party, and this is more of a testament to how quickly people level and scale, one of those against a level 5 party would have been an intense boss fight. But like 4 of them against a bunch of level 8s, and there's NPCs around with things to protect and such, becomes a far more messy and interesting encounter. So it's also just where you're placing things on a map.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that was also one of the cool portions of that fight too, is that you guys had an asset to protect, which is also something that they wanted, a large freaking piece of food. So it was like, okay, what's, with the ox. And so
there's an intelligence behind what happens, which as the player pisses you off because you could have been smarter. Oh, I could have planned for this a little bit.
Well, and then one final thing for this is I really also like that it is a burrowing creature, kind of going back to the shadows and the banshees. Is it burrows, and I really like the storytelling aspect of like as it burrows and comes to the surface, it melts the snow now and in a hurl of, it even says it in the description, it's like in a hurl of freaking like mist and like a burst of dirt, it like bursts forth underneath the ground and just starts to go to town. So it's so cool.
Absolutely. I like those, but I did say there was one monster I liked, but as you were talking, I double checked its ability, and I do like its relationship to it's not a swallow ability, but it's a similar ability.
Which monster is this? Let me pull it up.
So again, this is just standard monsters manual. Well, no, actually, no. This time I did grab vocals.
Okay.
Fullest Monsters Guide, and me did open up 2 tabs that I didn't want. But slap my keyboard. But it is page 138. It's one of my favorite monsters. I have not yet been able to use it. I almost tried to bullshit away into getting it into the next arc, but obviously I think it's safe to say from showing it to you, it's not there probably.
Oh my god.
But it is coming in at CR13. It is the Devourer, a large fiend, chaotic evil, of course. But it has for one, it's creepy as hell.
Oh yes.
Its ability, which isn't swallow, is imprisoned soul. And the first condition of it is a Devourer can choose a living creature with 0 hit points and can see within 30 feet of it. So the prior condition is that you are downed. You have to be downed, which normally is a thing like in D&D, depending on how nice your DM is and depending on what kind of game you're playing. There's sometimes an understanding. I say sometimes because I don't normally do this, but sometimes there's an understanding. It's like if they're downed, this enemies are not necessarily going to run up and just punch them, because that's a crit, it's double failure type thing. And here's a monster written into the book with a specific ability of, are they down on the ground? Go to hell.
Right.
So anyway, just to read it straight up, the creature is teleported away into the Devourer's ribcage and imprisoned there. When you're in there, again, disadvantage of death saving throws. That becomes a horrific thing if you get trapped and stuck in there. If it dies while imprisoned, the Devourer gains 25 hit points. Immediately it recharges that same that's a different ability, Soul Rend, which is a big AoE necrotic thing, which is awesome. This is by the way, this is a boss. You are not throwing 3 of these and a younger version at a party. This is a boss with minions. Yeah, this is not something you're just throwing out there.
This is something you add
ecology.
This is something you add 200 hit points, and you call it a boss depending on the party or whatever, whatever you need to adjust, and then you just freaking send it.
I think again, just a armor class 16 hit points on the book, unless you're rolling for it, is 178. And I think with how offensive and how nasty it can get, throw some relevant minis, like maybe shadows if you're getting cheeky, or if you're trying to be a nasty DM and you want to combo the Banshee's Wail ability to drop people to 0 and its imprisoned soul ability to take that 0 person that the Banshee just wailed to death and teleport it in a ribcage. If you want to be that guy, which there's no reason you can't do that. You could absolutely do that and make a difficult encounter insanely lethal. But anyway, the ribcage ability traps them in there. Just to make sure I'm reading this real quickly.
Yeah, and then
the imprisoned soul ability, there is nothing written here, but as a DM, I would make it so. Again, we're talking about damage thresholds. I would say that, especially with targeted strikes, we talked about increasing maybe AC to target specific things. I would let the party target the chest or attack in such a way to free their party member from its chest.
Right.
In the same way that bosses in games oftentimes have a vulnerable area. It's let them chew that up, and maybe if they do enough damage, they do enough specific damage, maybe roll a crit or something. Maybe it loses its imprisoned soul ability or something. But just having that thread of, if this guy dies, by the way, just real quick, if you die in there, if you have 2 hit points or fewer, you're a zombie. If you had 3 to 5 hit die, you become a ghoul. If you had any more, you become a white, and it drops you on the ground, you become a minion in the fight. Which
is insane.
I think is cool. Better. I think it's better to use, say theoretically, if the party has a bunch of NPCs and they're on a hunt.
Oh wait.
And the NPCs get dropped.
Wait.
Again, I think I'll safely say the Devourer's not coming up in that.
Yeah, I would hope not.
Because you guys would need to be much higher level for me to freely throw this at you. But I think it's better as a DM to grab NPCs, maybe important NPCs, maybe they had a message to deliver, maybe they had an item on them or something, and now they're dropped zombified. Oh shit! Now we gotta kill Susan. Swing on her. But there's a bunch of things going on with this monster, but I think it's an imprisoned soul ability. Swallow is an ability that it can hit you at any HP range, and it does acid damage to you, right? But there's a bunch of things you have to do, but you're stuck inside it. This is if you're dropped to 0, and I think I would communicate as a DM, maybe like you guys were hunting this thing and you get some prior knowledge about it, or you see it happen firsthand. But like going in, I would want the party to know, hey, if you get dropped, this is a thing that can happen to you. However in the story you communicate that. So there is that constant, like maybe the cleric has to be dialed in on his healing, dialed in on his spells. The paladin is just doing what he can to give bless, do what he can to keep it, because if somebody's dropped, the situation very quickly becomes we're going to lose a party.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And that's even stuff on top of his soul rend, because he makes 2 claw attacks and can use either imprisoned soul or soul rend. And in soul rend is literally 20-foot radius centered on itself. Each human must make a DC 18 con save or take 8d10 necrotic damage. Increase the damage by 10 for each living humanoid with 0 hit points in that area. So yeah, this is just something that as soon as these people start dropping, it just becomes immediately just can become even shittier.
This is a monster that would thrive very well, and obviously we're doing a horror campaign. I think a different type of campaign, more leaning towards like Curse of Strahd, maybe like something that's living in the Fae, or not the Fae realm, sorry, the Shadowfell or something like that. Like this is a monster that's like, and again, it's a boss monster, or at very least a lieutenant to whatever big bad evil. Like this, it is the centerpiece of a fight. Unless you're like level 20 and you're just like, oh, what's it, Banish? And you just like keep going on. You just 9th level Banish, go to hell, and just keep going,
Well, it's interesting because like it's a large fiend, which is interesting because it's not like I would think of this creature more of like an aberration or whatever.
Aberration, yeah.
Yeah, I would think it more of like a monstrosity or an aberrations. I don't really feel like this would be a fiend. I mean, obviously.
I like it as like a demon, but again, for me, fiends and devils and demons all come up with this one wild umbrella.
Yeah.
And part of it is because I've played so much Total War Warhammer 3. so there's just a lot of varieties of demons and monsters and things in there. And this, obviously, I cannot think of a thing in that game that translates to this 1/1, but it is like something's like, I'm just going to speak in the terms of that game. The vampire.
What's up,
counts,
Gray? Sorry, Gray.
What's up, Gray? Gray, we're talking about weird shit, buddy. Like that is something I can see, like maybe like a vampire raising, but this seems more of like and again, relationship with that game, maybe like a Nurgle thing, which is like the god of like pencil disease and all that. I'm just gonna feed on I'm gonna make people dead, then I'm gonna eat them, and then I'm just gonna and it communicates in here that it's living off the souls of people. That's like its fuel is the souls of people,
right?
And that's how it's eating. It's not like it's dropping the flesh. It doesn't care about that. But in my mind, I'd almost make this creature like the thing raising from the dead afterwards is like a byproduct that it does not care about. But that being said, its intelligence is 13. This is not like a force of nature. This is something that really. Let me just double check here.
Well,
it has languages. It has abyssal and telepathy.
I was gonna say it has abyssal, and it also I was gonna say it has means of communication. Now, obviously, if you don't know abyssal, then But I think it'd be really cool to give this creature kind of that agency. If you were like, hey, give him comment, or if one of your party members had abyssal, I think that'd be pretty horrifying to be like, yo, what the fuck? And then this thing comes out of the woodworks, and you're like, oh god, save me.
I will say there's one thing that does annoy me about D&D 5e a little bit that I would absolutely change this monster into the favor of the party, which is a rarity for me.
Yeah.
Which is why I try to let spellcasters get away with crazy shit. I let the barbarian kick a tree down if he thinks it's gonna help.
Yeah, of course.
Here, especially a monster like this that is a fiend and such, I would love to have a damage vulnerability. I think a lot more monsters need a vulnerability that maybe even make it a weird one. Maybe even make it a storytelling one. Maybe there's something in here that like maybe there's like some sort of some ancient hero that like fell the beast the first time is what you need. Something like that. It could be that crazy specific. So maybe only one person's getting this crazy damage. Or maybe it's something that you have to like purify and create. But a situation for a monster like this where you're putting numbers on them. Like Radiant, for instance, would make sense for this creature. But on this on the list of the monster, it has resistances, has immunities, and that's it. So
Yeah.
I think more vulnerabilities, I think, across the board, I like for monsters.
I would definitely agree. I think vulnerabilities are a really cool way to.
Siri's trying to tell me about that right now.
Hell yeah. I think it's really cool. I think vulnerabilities can add a lot of fun. I feel like vulnerabilities aren't even that necessarily big of a deal in the scope of like when it comes to encounters, because unless your characters have that specific like element or or thing to make that occur, then it's like you don't know until you know what I'm saying, like,
Right.
and more often than not, it's like, oh, your attack does 0 damage, then it's like, oh, that like did mega damage. Like that's always really cool to know. Now obviously that can kind of snowball and compile, but I feel like for a monster like the Devourer, it can almost be like that, like if you figure this out, like now you're good, whereas it can be a very 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 hard fight until then.
I think a monster like this, if it ended
Sounds
up
good,
being,
Eric.
They found Eric. What it sounds good.
He's
Again,
gonna
my internet isn't
he's got a rack focus though, so you focus, my boy.
Yep.
And we'll keep you entertained. We got you, Gray. We'll keep talking about the weirdest shit in D&D.
I'm not good about talking about normal shit. But if I ran a monster like this and this boss fight went 4 rounds, but it went 4 rounds because they found out the damage resistance, and if it's going to go 4 rounds, you're using Soul Rand, you're gonna find a way to use Imprisoned Soul. You're gonna get to do like all the capstone abilities, show off this monster, and if they fall it in 4 rounds, cool. I don't think you shouldn't shy away from that so much, because like, oh, you guys kind of earned it, and now I know like whatever I need to know about the party specific dynamics there to make the next thing stronger, or the next thing have its own little ploy there. But like, this is just a fun. Obviously, I was just talking about the Shadow and the Banshee being super low level, like things that are fun. This is like
exactly.
This is
other side of the spectrum.
Yeah, challenge rating 13. So it's a boss for at least certainly medium parties. Like I think 5 to 8. This is a boss, especially if you add splash little monsters around it. Again, famously, you could add a Phalanx of Kobolds there just to confuse everybody. But for whatever reason, they're with a Devourer now, and they're just getting pack tactics on you with their shivs.
And then you're just getting absolutely steamrolled. But it's actually funny. Okay, so I have another monster. Are you good with this one? Oh, I think Connor just shit out his internet. Oh, that sucks. Let me text him real quick. Wait, you're back. You lived. I didn't expect you to live. I was about to text you.
Yeah, I was on that with the quickness. Yeah, because I said that these pages weren't loading. So just now I am able to actually get on stream and actually read what's going on.
Okay, great. Cool. Are you cool with the Devourer? Everything you wanted to touch base there?
Yeah, really just the main thing was it's a monster that I like, but just in relation to the Swallow ability, here's something that does something functionally similar, but it like the language around it, the situation around it, and it, like kind of the whole circumstance makes it a completely different tone in the fight. That's a lot of fun. And also they happen to be similar CR.
Exactly.
That's it for the Devourer.
Yes, sir.
I don't know.
Okay, so I actually remembered another one for mine, and I actually used this one, and I'll tell you, it'll be 127 of Mordenkainen's.
I think I have this. 1 second. Un momento.
Oh, I am like, okay, yeah, you're good. Is it cutting off anything? No.
124?
127 of Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes, and it is the Corpse Flower. This
that's a fun one.
This monster, so I actually used this one in addition to my Dracolich, and I wouldn't say necessarily it wasn't my intention to use them directly in tandem, but what basically long story short, the Dracolich put his phylactery in the Corpse Flower. And so they had to go to this Shadowfell, and they had to go to this like grave site where there was a bunch of zombies and stuff, and this thing was kind of just looming in the area, kind of just hanging out. But this thing is so cool. The mechanics, corpses. So the corpse, it contains a certain amount of corpses, which it then can let's see. So A corpse flower can hold the remains of up to 9 dead humanoids. These remains have total cover against attacks, blah, blah, blah. And then if it dies, they're free. While it has at least one humanoid corpse in its body, the corpse flower can use a bonus action to do one of the following. And it can basically ingest one, which it heals, or it can animate one, and it basically has a minion. And I just think it's so cool.
Yes.
I also really like the fact that it is spider climb. Makes it super freaky. It's like starts to like climb on walls and stuff, and you're like, oh shit. The stench of death is also really cool. You have to make a con save, or become incapacitated, which is pretty cool. And then
if you're familiar with real life corpse flowers at all, stench of death is an absolute must.
Is there? Wait, there's real life corpse flowers?
Yeah, there's one. The spheres in the Amazon spheres in Seattle. They have like little garden in there or something. And they had like they had a corpse flower. They bloom like once every so many years for like a week, but they smell like a corpse, and that's what they're called, corpse flowers. So people are like, yeah, I'll go smell it, and like it's not. I don't know why you like go out of your way to do that, but people do. So yeah, they're a real thing. So like stench of death, I'm like, nice. Like some callback to Earth, I guess a little bit, but all the while I like Rat King type enemies.
Exactly.
Like, where it's just like, because I spoke a little bit about, I think last time, like the Boneyard, which is a similar thing, a collection of corpses. I think the corpse flower is a fun version of that, where it's let me read here. Large plant, so cool. It is classified as a plant too, which is a lot of fun. But it is also just like, it's using bodies essentially as fuel for the fight, and that's always cool. Because its hit points are relatively low.
With its armor class being lower too.
Yeah, but then it's just like body, munch. All right,
but
you know what's
kind of crazy is it does have a fairly high intelligence for a creature as well as wisdom, which I didn't really even notice that till now. For
its wisdom is 15, which is insanely high, really.
Yeah. And I will say that it can make 3 tentacle attacks, which would be his action economy is very good off the rip. And it has poison damage, which is cool, going back to the whole corpse portion of it. And then Harvest the Dead, which is actually another thing about kind of why I put it in a graveyard or a grave area, because it could do that and it can continue to kind of like refuel itself. And I do like that.
I like the language of one unsecured dead body. Like, yeah, you better stake it to the ground or claim it as yours. It's just mine.
Well, and even going back to the action talk that we would have, where I like how it says it can use a bonus action. I like that it doesn't bog down its action economy with as an action. And it's like healing 2d10 as an action, where it can make, instead of making 3 attacks, it can heal only 2d10. That's such a bad trade-off, but the fact that it can use its bonus action and gives it more agency, I love that.
I also like that the tentacles don't do a ton of damage.
Well,
if the poison hits, it does. But like, I like that it's like it gets 3 swings. They don't do a ton of damage. But it's like a fun way for it to spread it out.
Yeah, and I like that. And going back, I like the con save. Where it's like you can save and save yourself health, or if you fail, it's not a super high DC, but it's that that ability to negate it. And if you don't, then you'll take more. But yeah, like you were saying, if you have a high con save or roll really well, you can kind of negate a lot of that, but there's that presence of a threat.
I do like, again, the conversation I had about like how for this one particular campaign we're running poison. This monster in that campaign, I think, immediately goes at least a challenge rating 11, from 8 to 11, just because it has 3 attacks that deal poison damage, and then which this one does not say here. It gives you the poison condition. Poison is a damage that it gives. But with that, I think like there's certain things like poison damage in that setting. If you want to keep it at it, I might reflavor as like some form of like a toxin or something. Just something to communicate. Yes, this is doing damage to you because it's like harming your bloodstream. But like, I would almost throw in, you want to consume a corpse and just get your tentacle all icky and gooey and just actually put a far more lethal poison condition on someone. Like, that might be a fun thing to add to this monster here. Just, again, with that language of poison being, like, poison condition, bad, like, you're doing everything with disadvantage, essentially. Anything reasonable in combat. Right. And then also, like tick damage the whole time until you pass the save. I'd almost add that to the monster if, again, you're going with a setting where you wanted poison to be more lethal, really.
Well, exactly. Or you could even do it to where, like, if you take the poison damage twice, you suffer the poison condition, or maybe you have to make a separate throw or something.
That's a good, yeah.
You know,
like just like a build up.
Yeah, if you get hit once, it shocks your system. You get hit again, that's when it like lingers. You know, or even make maybe the stench of death not incapacitated, because then we were talking about conditions, and we don't want to necessarily remove agency from players, but instead of doing incapacitated, it's poisoned, and so that way you can kind of get that poison effect going on creatures without, because if they fail to save, the creature is incapacitated. I want to say, I don't think you remake it on a failed save. The creature is incapacitated until the end of the turn. Okay, so there is a little bit of a balance there. So you just become incapacitated till the end of the turn, which can be.
It does say creatures that are immune to poison damage or the poison condition automatically pass the saving,
which is cool. Kind of going back to the vulnerabilities thing. There is that kind of like, here's a little bit of a buff there. Yeah.
And now reading that, I just now remember there are players that could be immune to poison damage.
Actually,
so you play Warforged.
There is paladins, they're immune to. Aren't paladins immune to poison?
I think maybe a certain subclass at a certain level, but monks, I believe so. Maybe, yeah.
I think so.
I don't know.
I know they're actually changing that. I know that actually in the next edition in the Unearthed Arcana that I've been like looking into, I know that they're getting rid of that. They're doing a couple different tweaks to things, which I'll be interested to look at. But they are making the poison a little bit more involved. I don't know if they have revamped what the poison condition does, because I know we were talking about how it's kind of vague, and it's just like you're poisoned, and now you just like can't do anything right. Whereas we were kind of talking about like a ramping chart would be a lot more fun, I feel like.
Yeah. And also, again, like we talked about briefly with like different types of poisons, like different games have different types of poisons that do different things. Having that, like you're poisoned, and poison could do that very basic perhaps thing, which is like, you have disadvantage on these checks. But also paralysis, also maybe damage, also maybe you have this vulnerability, also maybe you have like temporary blindness or like disadvantage on perception or whatever, depending on what you're trying to do to it.
Exactly.
And a huge amount of depending on what you want to do with it, right? However you want to run it. Again, like with what I have right now in the game I'm running, it is a continuous tick damage and disadvantage on death saving throws, and that feels like enough to add to this, and also, of course, communicate with my players before I decided to do that.
Well, and I've always, and I mentioned this when we were talking about conditions, but I always found it interesting how the poison condition never gave you more damage, even if it was a little bit. I always felt like if you have poison coursing through your system, your body is constantly just is getting assaulted. I feel like it makes sense if you were like body was like shutting down or you're taking damage.
Right. I always kind of thought about it depends again on the poison that you're given, because there are certain things like you can buy small poison kit, you can buy like better poison stuff in the handbook, but all of those just say you take poison damage. I don't think any of them, I think there might be one, but I don't think for the most part any of them say you also have the poison condition.
Right.
So I think the writing on poison was like allowing for you get hit by something that does poison damage and also you're poisoned. But I don't know if that was ever like directly linked, and that's me also trying to rationalize something that I think is inherently broken anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of poison, though, I'm curious as to what Logan wanted us to bring up, which would be the.
Speaking of poison, what did Logan say?
He said the Myconids, which I've seen but never actually used.
Yes. Myconids.
Like the mushroom dudes, the little freaks.
I just need to remember which book they're in.
They are in the Monsters Manual. They'd be page 230. Oh yeah, they're the mushrooms. Yep, for sure. Interesting. I've seen these but never actually looked at them.
I thought for a minute I thought he was doing the Moderons or whatever, which are like the weird like construct loft things.
Yeah,
which
I saw it too, and I was like, what?
Again, talking about art styling and how much they influence what you want to run. Looking at the art style of them, they don't exist in my setting. Those are goofy looking dudes. I don't like them.
Modrons? I'm not.
The
robots. Yeah, like the squares and the circles and shit. They're just goofy as hell.
It is from a different dimension type thing. It is from a different plane, so I understand why they look the way they look. I still hate them.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to give Logan a quick freaking little shout out here and get his.
Well, for one, there is 4 different setups. You have the Sprout, You have the Quinoth Spore Servant. You have the Myconid Adult. And you have the Myconid Sovereign.
So I think I'm looking at the Myconid Adult and Myconid Sovereign only because the other ones I feel like are like babies, and so I want to actually see what these are.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, Spore Servant, just damage-wise, or whatever, it's challenge rating 1, multi-attack, but its multi-attack is 2 claw attacks. But I think the biggest thing here is, probably looking at what you're looking at here, is the Distress Spores and the Sun Sickness ability. And honestly, I do believe these were what were used. I guess spoilers for any Dimension 20 people, but in the Ravening War, I believe Myconids did come in towards part of that game. I thought, in my mind, it was just like, oh, this is a homebrew thing, but reading this, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense to what was going on.
Yeah, and I think this kind of goes into that category of like cool low level, but they have like cool abilities. Like they have pacifying pacifying spores where you become stunned. We talk about stun removes agency for characters, so maybe making that a dazed or something that kind of limits a turn but doesn't remove it entirely. And then rapport spores, where if these spores can go around corners and affect creatures with only intelligence of 2 or higher, and then affected creatures communicate telepathically with one another while they are within 30 feet of each other. That's just interesting. Like that doesn't like do anything like beneficial in the means of combat, but kind of a cool like role playing.
Only thing. RP, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lawful neutral, so it doesn't necessarily say they're out there beating ass for no reason.
And then when you get into the Sovereign, though, which again, the Myconid Adult is challenge rating. The Myconid Spore Servant is challenge rating 1. The Spores are challenge rating 0. They just have the Distress Spore ability. But the Sovereign is a lot of stuff added to it. The whole collection of challenge rating 2. But 13 hit points, 13 armor class, 60 hit points. But it has really, I do like this language here. The pacifying spores and its own special hallucinogen spores. It gets to use either of those, then it gets to punch you. And I like that it's like, oh, it gets to make 2 actions and gets to pick. It's like, oh, it could do any of its actual cool capstone unique abilities, and then it can punch you in the fucking head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which I think is a fun mix.
Yeah, this is actually really cool. I have not actually looked at these, and so that'd be actually a really fun thing. And you could do this too in a swamp because they are like mushrooms or whatever. So
for sure, I do quite like the Distress Spores ability, which really can create, especially if you're in the Underdark, especially if you're in a situation where you're trying to be quiet. Maybe the rogue doesn't realize this, but it says here Distress Spores, and this is just a passive ability. When this Myconid takes damage, all other Myconids within 240 feet can sense its.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Which can create, like, for one, if the players know about it, creates a situation where if you're trying to be stealthy, you have to do it completely stealthily. You can't be killing anything,
right?
Because they at least know something happened. Everybody knows something happened. They might not know it's you. You maybe got a lucky shot off of the bow. Maybe you dropped it, but the alarm's raised.
Exactly.
Or maybe they don't know and they drop the first guard and the whole town wakes up, or the little the mining setup, or maybe depending on how you're running your Myconids. I mean, they're Wisdom 15. Well, the Sovereign again is Wisdom 15, Intelligence 13. They're intelligent enough to have a society. I'm not reading through the flavor text.
Yeah, but it's still. But I really like the medium plant. I like when they add because I haven't done much with plants. I've done a little bit. I ended up using the
Corpse Flower for 1.
The Corpse Flower for 1, and then I ended up using I think they're called the Blights, I think is what they are.
Yes,
yeah, the Blights. They're like
Blights are a lot of fun.
They're like the tree like root people, and I ended up using them in a cool way, which we won't get into necessarily right now. But I really like the sentient plants. Those are always a lot of fun to throw. I never actually used Ents, which is kind of funny because Ents are pretty universally known.
Shambling Mound is a lot of fun.
Oh, obviously. I did use that. Yeah.
And in our home game, I remember hitting him with fire damage. It was resistant. Hit him with cold damage, it was resistant. Because I had a bow that let me do 3 different damage types. The third one, where I'm like, this will get him, was lightning damage, which, if you know about Shambling Mounds, actually just fucking heals him. So I shot him with a bow, did damage, but it healed more than the damage I did. so that worked out pretty well. But it's also even that's just a fun thing where lightning damage hitting a tree heals it, and it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it is also like gameplay wise like a fun thing because really realistically, if you're fighting a Shambling Mound, taking the call to do lightning damage is like it's gonna be few and far between if you ever use it, and it will likely never come up. When it does, it's even in that case was hilarious.
Exactly. You're like, shit.
And Shambling Mound, you can make like a difficult encounter. I think even then it was. But
well, they have a good stack of hit points, so. Which let's just shoot over there real quick. Where is that's in the that's in the main? I want to say. I'm just gonna look at its stats.
I think it's crit on main. Yeah. Shambling.
It is 270. 270 the Monsters Manual. Oh, I think it's right after your boy Shadow. Yep, it literally is. That's funny.
Yeah,
large plant.
Challenge rating 5, yeah. Lightning absorption. When the Shambling Mound is subject to lightning damage, it takes no damage and regains a number of hit points equal to the lightning damage dealt.
That's really cool. And then also Engulf, going back to Swallow or Soul Render or whatever. The Shambling Mound engulfs this medium or small creature it's grappled by. The engulfed target is blinded, restrained, and unable to breathe. And then it must say on a thing, if the mound moves, the engulfed creature moves with it. So that's another kind of lower tier. I would say this is like probably like
running.
I think Swallow's kind of the that middle ground. We have Engulf, which is cool because it doesn't like it's not super crazy. And then you have Swallow, which is like pretty strong, but then you obviously like Soul Render or whatever, where he just eats the person and they're dead. But it's pretty cool. What
no reason in particular.
What is another creature that you wanted to bring up there, my friends?
So here's the thing. I believe we will absolutely have to do another version of this, perhaps with you, Logan, and I.
We will.
When I'm done with the Red Mire, because I have intentionally not spoken about any monsters from there, but there's some fun ones. But let me go through here because I did those. Want to bring?
I know that
Hags. Just the concept of Hags, just Monster Manual.
Yes.
Hags are
It's funny.
Again.
It's funny that you bring this up because I had thought about it too, and I was like, yeah, I can bring that up. Okay, good. You 176, I want to say.
Yes.
Yep. 176.
I had a Snickers wrapper holding it open, but really any version of Hag. But just I like and this concept didn't really come into its own in my mind, and I'm curious if this connects with you, but playing The Witcher 3, there was like the 3 bog hags or whatever. I don't remember what they were called.
The crone or whatever.
The crones, yes. Yeah. And like those things were by far, at least in the base game, the creepiest things to me.
Yes.
They were so unnerving. But also, more importantly, they were incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. Like communicating in the game, like especially it making it a situation where you couldn't fight them for a while, like you had to deal with them. Like, and I think using Hags for one as a role-playing thing before you use it as an encounter thing is a lot of fun, because they are like challenge rating 3 for a green hag, but if you build it up and you like create the situation and you give it enough tools, it can be a full arc trying to deal with that thing.
Yeah.
My personal favorite by a lot is the Night Hag, just because of let me make sure none of the other ones can do this before I say it.
I think the Night Hag's the most powerful one. They do actually add a couple versions of Hags, I want to say, in the later, and I think in the Mordecanians, but yeah.
Yes, but the Night Hag has, I want to make sure none of the other ones have it, but Night Hag has my favorite thing, especially for role-playing, which is simply right under clauses, change shape. It can polymorph. Yeah. And just abusing that, having Hags are supposed to be smart. This one especially is a little bit intelligence, but just big manipulators, just like taking over a town, spinning its webs, maybe it's part of a coven, maybe it's part of its own plans, maybe it's working with something, but either way, it is just about moving and shaking silent. Yeah. In its own, and Hags are just fucking cool, man.
So it's funny,
especially it's not that dangerous. It's CR5. But it is still really dangerous.
Well, that's what I like about the Hags, I think, as a creature, is that it's if you look at all their abilities, it is powerful, but like if you were to just if it was the 1v1 your paladin, it's like it's getting shit on. But like
sure.
But it has these tools that where it manipulates, and as long as your party's not just like I smite it and immediately off the bat, it can have the like cool agency. Like Nightmare Haunting, it can do some things. But it's actually pretty
God.
cool because in a one of the games that I was running for some of my roommates, we actually used a hag to kind of progress the story. Purely RP, purely there was no actual like combat. It was just a hag who lived out in the middle of the swamp. She was the reason why the mayor had something had happened to the mayor. Long story short, the hag. Sorry, hold on. Long story short, the mayor went out there, was like, yo, my family all died from a disease. Hag's like, yo, that's crazy. Yeah, yo, that's crazy. I have this crown that you can use, and it'll bring him back. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. And then they made a deal, because that's what hags like to do. They make deals. The crown was actually of like a very powerful evil entity. It corrupted the mayor. It brought his family back as undead, and it turned his kids into like imps.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah, and so it's super crazy. But what I really like about this
I think anybody who's been around toddlers can say they are imps, really.
But it was cool because like, and even because I think it was a green hag, I want to say I used, yeah, because illusory appearance, and basically I just had it had the hag kind of just changed its appearance and be like, oh, I'm just a sorceress or something, and was kind of like going off of it like just like a spellcaster, or just like was not calling herself a hag, was not embodying that, was like, oh, I'm just out here doing my thing, you know. But like, you know, the party members were like,
there is a huge difference between a witch and a hag,
or a witch. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a witch.
Well, what I mean is, like, people can believe a witch, but they'll be suspicious. Once I think at least most players, once they find out it's a hag, it's just like, oh, like,
exactly.
I'm drawn. Like, this is going off. But like having that, you're right. Like disguising itself is always like a fun, like, you're creating an uneasy atmosphere, but there's no reason necessarily to start swinging.
Exactly, and even its illusory appearance, it is. I want to say it's more advanced than most other illusions. You need a DC 20 intelligence investigation check to even discern that, which is very, very high if very high for a low level creature like this. So
hags are just the big thing is again, going back to the beast conversation with the Remorhaz, the hag is not something that, unless the story demands it, or unless there's a specific reason for it, or like you corner it, there's no reason the hag is going to fight you till it drops.
Right.
The hag has so many abilities to leave. Just leave.
Exactly.
Unless you're a higher level party, there's not a lot you could do about it. So that there's no reason the hag can't carry you. And even again, you can level up the hag a little bit, but the fun way to do that is it's an intelligent creature. Even here, reading on the night hag, it has suggested items for it. Why not, when it comes back? Why not have some more items? If you go right next to the sea hag there, it has the block recommending the night hag. Yeah,
that's cool.
But why not have it get a little bit stronger? Why not have it join a coven, and maybe you can have the hag keep coming back, and it is still a hag, but it's doing more things. It has more tricks, and it can be not something that's necessarily coming in to lethally attack the party, but something to harry it, affect the role playing, affect the story progression, and just like, you can keep that going until the party gets lucky, gets smart, or it's necessary, and the hag's gone.
Well, I think that's even just an interesting, cool thing is thinking about giving your creatures items. You know, like there's not very many times that I think like, oh, this creature should have an item. You know, other than like maybe like a Death Knight. You know, you can add some flair or like certain things. But like, you know, I don't really, I didn't really even think of like, it occurred to me like giving a creature like this an item that they can, you know, that can propel them as an entity to make them very strong, or maybe make it a plot point or something. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, hags. I mean, even if you want to, again, polar opposites. The crones from The Witcher 3, or even if you want to just make this a monster, hag ravens from Skyrim. You know, hag ravens.
Yeah, exactly.
Very two different ends of the spectrum. But hag ravens, even there, they do crazy magic. In the Skyrim game, obviously, the Forsworn Briarhearts like have deals with hag ravens. They get like little plants put in them that makes them stronger and all that. So they do crazy, you know, blood magic and such. But when it's Skyrim, when you roll up on them, they go, and you just charge double-handed greatsword, just cleave them.
You just kill them on sight. There's no like, what's up?
Yeah. Well, I will say the scale of magic, Skyrim to The Witcher, is slightly different.
True.
But
true.
But you can make your hags. I suggest making them intelligent, harrying, kind of annoyances with that cannot necessarily be ignored by the party. But if you want to make them monsters or just scary little forest witch women that the party gets to beat up a lot, they also are an interesting fight. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I was gonna even say, for even the green hag, and I'm sure the night hag as well. Like even their like normal melee, like claw, like even for like a low level party, that's a lot of damage. Like the night hag's 2d8+4, the green hag is 2d8+4. You could even make it so their claws have poison damage too. Add a little bit extra, just things like that you can just capitalize on. But yeah, sure. I think hags are awesome.
I like them a lot. Again, looking at the art is a big thing there. She's holding I don't even know if I'd call it a bowl, but a wicker basket of meat and bone. That's cool. Any monster that just do that, cash, is great to me. But again, it being like an intelligent monster, it being like you can make the hag a minion to a greater plan, but also you don't have to. The greatest plan being made in your whole arc or your whole even campaign can be an entire hag coven. Hag covens can get crazy. Yeah.
I think that's something I kind of want to mess with sometimes, because they usually
Never mind. I take it back. It's really lame. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make 50 hags. No, I want to say hags. They don't generally do that very often, but they can. I want to say the flavor text mentions, I think, that they usually make covens with like the kids that they get, monstrous motherhood, blah blah. And so usually it's not like them like finding each other and like doing it that way. Usually it's like they ate a baby and then they had a kid, and it's like, oh, now I have this kid. Now that's how they form like their covens sometimes. So really creepy, and again, real weird.
Again, for role playing purposes, it's everyone's comfort level. But hags manipulate kids. I remember hearing about, I can't remember where I heard it, but someone was talking about like the concept of like having a town like falling ill and crops are failing and like there's fires happening and like there's plague and there's all these things happening. And like through investigating, the party realizes it's just a hag promising kids like, oh, like you do these favors for me, you get to come to the playground at night. And the kids are just there's no magic happening. The kids are just doing all this stuff for the hag raven, and the hag just doing illusionary magic. Let the kids play at a playground at night. That's it. It's just a basic like first level spell, just running around playing at a playground. It's just causing dismay throughout the town. Wow. And probably every once in a while, Timmy goes to play and he doesn't come back.
Yeah, and just eats.
It's
like, oh shit.
I cannot remember where I heard that, but I do remember hearing about that, and just like that concept of a good relationship with the kids. For one, the hag is not necessarily a terrifying thing to the kids. It's like, oh yay, we get to go hang out with Greta in the woods.
Well, I mean, also
and nobody knows who Greta is.
Right, but also illusory appearance too. They can literally just make themselves look like a non-threatening individual. So.
Absolutely.
One creature that I want to use but I have not used, and I feel like it's kind of iconic in some ways, is Monsters Manual 157, the Gibbering Mouther.
Ah, yeah.
This freak of fucking nature, dude.
I love this.
This epitome of horror, bro. Like, what the?
This is okay. We absolutely need to do this again for Logan's sake, because I'm realizing as a DM, we have all looked at monsters in this and just went, oh, if I could just get them in a room alone with this thing, they're gonna freak the hell out. Yeah. Dude, this thing is a lot of fun, and also challenge rating 2 for something that is objectively horrifying.
Yeah, exactly. For sure,
that's a lot of bang for your buck.
For sure, Eric.
There's no reason you can't have 30 of them in a room, though.
Well, I want to say in Critical Role, I saw this actually because I seen him in the book. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then I know for Critical Role, Matt was using them, and it was like the suspension bridge, and he had like 10 of these things below, and so it would try to like hypnotize them, or it would try to make them move off the bridge and fall below and just get like devoured. And it was a really cool idea. I was like, that's crazy. Because Gibbering, each creature that starts its turn, it must make a save, and then it does something. On 1 of 4, does nothing. 5 to 6, creature takes no action, but then movement in a random direction, and then 7 to So it's just a super cool creature. Aberrant ground. The ground is definitely radius from it. It's a dough-like difficult terrain. Also cool. It changes the terrain around it. It's just got a lot of cool things. Blinding spittle. The mouth spits a chemical glob at point. Oh, it's got some range too, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
This reminds me of it, and I'm going to talk more about these things when we do the next one. But just because I know I'm not using it, this one I could not even use in the other campaign, but it is a horrifying thing, similar to Gibbering Mouth. There is, I can't remember if it's called Wall of Flesh, or if it's like the Umbral Wall or something, but it is like I think a 3rd edition monster. But what it is essentially it's like it is a monster that can't move, but it's just an entire wall. I think it's classified as a gigantic creature, but it is just a wall of flesh, and like it was like all the creatures were hypnotized into it and just create this surface. But its only attacks can come from the things it's consumed. So maybe it's consumed a spellcaster, it's shooting spells at you. Maybe it's consumed a barbarian, it's like swinging at you, and like it can't move, but it has abilities to like hypnotize and draw you in. It has abilities to like reach out and like lasso and like start dragging you. Because it just wants more meat in it, and it's just Gibbering Mouth, especially the gibbering ability. Yeah, why not have more meat on the meat? When I go to a deli and they ask me how much meat do I want on my sandwich, I say more meat. This is just a sandwich agreeing with me.
Maximum meat.
Yeah, which I will say, I do have plans to use a similar concept of that creature in the not near future, but it is just a fun concept, especially it's very situational. If it is on the other end of a hallway, 100 feet away, and you see it, and you go, huh? And then you're just like, all right, I guess the ranger and the fighter just start dumping arrows into it. Like that's not frightening. But if it is a thing where, for one, like it's a wall of flesh, which normally means a flat plane, why not make it an arch? A tunnel that you're moving through. Right. It doesn't announce itself till you're inside it. And then there's...
Oh, that's fucking freaky as shit. Well, I was thinking would be pretty cool is if it almost puppeteered. So things it consumed, it could like send out the fighter, but the flesh is still attached to it. So it literally just like moves and is like being like almost orchestrated by it's like attached fleshy bits.
Yeah, there's no reason. And even that, you could just take that concept, use a zombie stat block, and make it something. Or if you want to use more powerful things because you want to represent the creatures, you can just... The best monsters have a reason for their minions, So like, there adds in a fight. You could always have like, you're fighting a dragon and there's half dragons here and kobolds, and that makes sense. But it's always good to like have reasons for it, like either story reasons or here like you're seeing mechanically, you as the DM know they're fighting essentially zombies, but you're like communicating it as like the flesh dripping off the wall and such. Forming, you make it disturbing and you make it uncomfortable, and maybe why not take the time to add another little secondary ability to it? Exactly. Like maybe the monster also, maybe like if 2 of them hit you in the same turn, they grapple and drag.
Oh, and like to the wall of flesh. But yeah, exactly, like the Bravest Warrior episode. Exactly. For Eric chatting with us.
The Bravest Warrior episode. I wish I knew what that meant.
But yeah, do you have another monster?
Oh yes. What was it? This is a cult classic, literally. Let me make sure I have the right page on it because I did lose my bookmark. But it is I think everybody should use this monster, even if it is kind of cliche in its own way. But it is Monster Manual 242. It is Gelatinous Cube. It is just such a fun monster. It's a classic monster. It's a type of ooze, which I like that ooze is a type of monster because there's so many of them. But it just is a fun thing.
Wait, which one is it?
It's 242 in the Monsters Manual.
242. I said 50. Ooh, Black Pudding. Fun.
Black Pudding is also the oozes got a weird amount of attention.
Exactly. I agree.
And they go hard, but they're kind of terrifying. But it's challenge rating too. But I ran a 1 day one shot. We called a meat grinder, where I think we had everyone prepare like 3 characters, and then we also like pre-genned a bunch of characters. And the concept was, the story setting of it doesn't really matter, but like everybody was controlling one character that had a central point in like a labyrinth maze they're trying to navigate from. And anytime your character died, you drew a new character sheet, and a new person became unfrozen from that labyrinth. But my favorite thing was all these traps in the hallway, and someone just running down a hallway from something else just stuck in a noose, and it starts getting decomposed.
Immediately, draw a new character.
Just immediately. And of course, using it in a more serious game, but...
Well, it's also funny too because for that meat grinder, when you died, you went back to a tavern that was basically just frozen in time, and so like you just keep playing patrons that just run out the door and go fight.
Yeah,
Go
pretty much a bunch of people are running out on their tab, and eventually the bartender catches them.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's just like just an underground tavern. It was a one shot. It didn't make a lot of sense, but it was a lot of fun. Especially the players knew they were going to create a bunch of characters that were going to die. I think there ended up being like 30 characters in the tavern, and 3 got out.
Yes, I know 3 got out. I remember that for sure. We had
Jukebox. One of them was Jukebox the Warforged,
yeah,
the bartender himself, and then by happenstance, just some pre-genned Elven Eldritch Knight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, the cube, man, iconic, really.
It is, but it's also one of my favorite things about it. Really is because some of the monsters we went through a double check. Some of them only like Shambling Mound 20-foot movement, the 20-foot swim as well, the corpse lover 20-foot movement. This is 15-foot movement. If you see it and you're like, you can back up. You always could, but also you won't. It's D&D. People don't do that, and if they don't know what's happening, they're gonna swing their weapons at it that are not gonna do anything. Like, well, let me double check here, but I think they might have changed it a little bit. But pseudopod engulf. I don't believe, but I normally run it this way, where the gelatinous cube is either immune or resistant to slashing and piercing damage.
Oh yeah, I'm actually really surprised it's not there.
Yeah, because that is such an iconic thing about the cube. I would say absolutely tack that on. You don't have to, but it's a gelatinous thing. I think a lot of oozes have. I don't think any of these. I'm seeing resistances to acid, cold, fire. I'm seeing immunity.
Oh,
immunity.
the Akri jelly is immune to slashing, but that's the only one.
No, I would say for any ooze, you can add that.
I would.
Maybe magic is an exception.
Did you say magic resistance or immunity? You said resistance.
Resistance. I normally try not to go so hard as immunity.
Right.
Because 84 hit points, and this isn't a boss. You're not using this like big like brazier filled room with all these occultist rituals praying, and then just from the ground just
cube
jello comes up and then the soul screaming.
No, it's like it's like a spam can from the ceiling as it and it just is like a like a can of beans. Yeah, a can of beans is
like it doesn't fully come out. They have to have the actual squire go and shake the chandelier.
It's onto the floor. Exactly. Yo, iconic, man. Iconic.
It is iconic, and it's a fun monster. It's another engulf ability, which has weirdly become a theme of this one, but I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Because in the D&D movie, they did a decent job of like showing like, it's gonna just eat, it's just gonna digest you in there, man. Until like conveniently for the story, it didn't. It's a movie thing. It's fine. But
exactly, of course.
It has a pretty decent little melee attack. The engulf ability is the main thing about it, but it is a one-trick pony. It does its engulf thing. It's transparent. It either ambushes you or it doesn't, and then you beat the shit out of it, and then it's gone, and it dissolves, and maybe there's some fun loot in there. But it is just an iconic thing to have in a dungeon, especially if your players are super paranoid about traps. It's a lot of fun to show maybe a trap that's kind of weak, and then maybe show a trap that's already been sprung, and everyone's like so totally chill with it. And everyone's just moving through super cautiously, and maybe they're looking around the walls for traps, and they just walk into this wall and just get swallowed in, and like, oh shit, there goes the rogue, and then just gotta start stabbing at it as the rogue's trying to dodge the stabs. This can kill you, absolutely. It is a lethal monster, but I have never come into a situation where this is gonna kill somebody unless they're alone. In that case, you're dead, which I believe is what happened in the meat grinder. Someone ran off a hallway by themselves.
Exactly.
From a skeletal minotaur, and just
it'd be kind of fun to have these things like chasing the party in the dungeon. They don't know about it though. It just slowly.
Which, again, transparent. Even when the cube is in plain sight, it takes a successful 15 perception check to spot.
Well, so
there's no reason you can up that number if you're trying to make a certain encounter.
It's just to check a spot or to check to spot a cube that neither moved nor attacked. So I would say it'd be kind of cool. It'd also be fun to paranoid your players out there, like, hey, make a perception check every time. Every time it moves, like, okay, you don't see anything.
Well, as a DM, you can just do that anyway.
It's true, but I feel like it'd be even better if it's like And eventually they just catch it up and starts engulfing one of the because like you were saying, it's not like a huge threat, so it'd be more like funny, like comical if it's someone gets absorbed, like what the fuck, and it was just chasing them the whole time.
Even if they turn around and what they see, they don't even make eye contact with the cube. They see a skeleton behind them, but like its arm raised, and they see that and go to swing at that and make contact 2 feet sooner with the cube that kills.
Oh yes, that'd be so cool. Also, how do you kill a jelly? Honestly, with just a lot of magic and just repeated slashing and bashing.
Yeah, pretty much. You like, there's a membrane on it. Is kind of how I'd communicate it. Like that membrane has a certain amount of thickness. You do a certain amount of damage to it and it breaks down. Exactly. Thing. Yeah. But I would probably, again, playing with these monsters and adding things to it homebrew wise. If you want to do that, and if you want to make this a more lethal thing, and this won't kill somebody, I don't think, but situationally might. Maybe when it drops, there's splash damage. You take some acid damage. Like if you finally slash it enough that this membrane kind of breaks. Maybe it, like the insides splash out, and it's gonna hurt you because it's digesting. You know?
Yeah.
Just fun ways to make a monster that already has certainly killed many adventurers, potentially kill more adventurers.
For sure. And also, it's one of those things, too, where, like you're saying, it's not, like, a super big threat, but it's, like, iconic when you find a cube, like, oh, shit, and then also it's, like, that immediate, like,
you just beat it up nice.
Depending on the circumstances, it's, like, oh, shit, and, like, you know, it can be kind of a little bit of a jump scare, or, like, a, oh, shit, but then it's pretty easily just dispatched.
And also, a fun thing to do with this, and by fun, I mean screwed up and making a bad situation worse. If the party is being chased by something, and there's a hallway they must go down, and this is in the way. You know, like it could be, especially if it's an intelligent group of monsters. This is not a smart creature at all. Maybe because its intelligence is 1. But
wait, hold on. I don't even. Oh shoot! I went too far. Oh wait, I went way too far.
You went past Oozes. Yeah, it is 242.
You said it's 1. I think. Nice.
Intelligence 1, Wisdom 4, Wisdom 6.
I think its Charisma is also 1.
Yeah, I mean same. But
I think
like maybe an intelligent group of monsters can harry the party and like chase him away or something, or like run away maybe and like do like they cut their little way, just something to trick the party into running into an ooze.
Right.
Like they are aware of an environmental hazard, which this thing can very much be, whereas you're not, because this thing is hungry, but it's not necessarily malicious. At intelligence 1, trees are smarter.
Yeah. Literally the corpse flower's intelligence is higher.
By a lot, yeah.
Bad PC idea. A street urchin turtle that was raised by a rat folk, except he also is the final son of the Joestar bloodline, subclassing into astral self monk for that sweet stand. Holy shit.
Sweet. Oh god. There, as long as you make 3 more, pretty much.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Name them after famous artists. In the setting, you have to coordinate with your DM to find 4 Renaissance painters. But
I will say, I think we should do for the last one. I do have one more that I've always liked. I have yet to use it. It's actually literally the page before the Oozes. It's the Oni.
God, I just closed it. I know what the Oni is.
At 239, I feel like we had a horror theme for this first go around. For the most part, we had a lot of.
I held back a lot if that was the case, but that's okay.
Nah, it's okay. We'll do it again.
231.
239. 239.
Ah, yes, that would be a different number.
The Oni.
Nightmare. That's always a fun one. The Oni. That's an ogre. Yes, Oni is a fun. Let me make sure I'm reading it right. Boogeyman type thing.
Yeah,
I always kind of classify the Death Knight, the Revenant, and the Oni as similar in my mind, a little bit.
Right.
Gameplay wise and RP wise, I do like that.
The Oni.
7. Okay, cool.
Well, the Oni is just such a. I feel like the Oni, like when you think about it, at least in my mind, when it comes to like flavor and kind of just as the creature itself, I always think of the owner being a little bit less powerful, kind of in the same like power scale as a hag. But it's kind of crazy when you actually look at the stats. Child's rating 7.
Oh yeah.
Freaking has AC 16 chain shirt, a shit ton of hit points. For some reason, it has a glaive. I always thought that was kind of funny. And
and it can change shape.
Like you see this creature, like you see in like the actual like graphic that they drew up, and then like it's like, oh, it also has a chain shirt and a glaive, even though it's shirtless and has like a weird cloak. So I think it's kind of funny.
Exactly. I like that because it's a good example of like artist rendition. It's like, ooh, sorry, we did change the scope of what this thing is. But yeah, we'll still use it.
Well, there's all. I guess in some ways though, I think because it says claws are Oni form, so I feel like the glaive and the chain shirt are if it's changed into a creature. Because magically
That makes a lot of
polymorphs
sense, yeah.
into a small or medium humanoid, into a large giant, or back into
Slashing damage in small or medium form. Yes.
So I
It's
feel
a large giant.
I feel like it's giving itself. It's a large giant. That's even freakier. I thought it was a normal medium.
One moment, if you want to talk about this a little bit, I do have to do a quick little pissel.
Oh yeah, you go do a pissel, my guy.
A little pissel of missile. All right, be right back.
All right, but yeah, I really enjoy the Oni, and I like that kind of just the like that. It gives really good plot points for like horror themed or like nightmarish or whatever you want to have, or whatever you want to kind of embed it in. The change shape obviously can embed itself into societies and just wreak havoc. So it's always really cool. So, yeah. It has regeneration too. Oh, actually, this one has. Oh no, you lost your toy, Nox. Where is it? Oh, hold on. I gotta get Nox's toy. Please hold. Oh, yes. All right, go lay down. Good boy, buddy. Yeah, he's chilling. Yeah, honestly, their generations. I did not know it was a large giant. That's actually kind of nuts. And it has innate spell casting too. Charm Person, Cone of Cold, Gaseous Form, Sleep, Darkness. Yeah, it's just a freaking monstrosity. Freaking. Oh my gosh, my PDFs keep like lagging out and like.
I lagged out too over there, so that's good.
No worries. I literally I try to like highlight like text and it just like glitches out.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah,
Right,
only another strong contender in the realm of horror and whatnot.
Well, it's also one of the things where its intelligence is relatively high for a thing like this, especially again, where I said I put it in my mind as like a Death Knight Revenant type thing. So just like something that could be intelligent, could talk to you, could befriend you, could stab you with a glaive at some point. And you're like, and then as you're like turning confused, it's no longer your small friend, half pint, the happy halfling that it just grows quadruple its size and it punches you in the side of the head, and then drags you off into the wilderness.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's freaking. And then I was noticing, Connor, that the regeneration doesn't get halted if it takes fire damage, which is something that the trolls, I want to say, if they get fire damage, they stop. But this one's just straight up just chill.
Well, yeah, because I think what they're doing here is the ogres. It's like part of their physiology, whereas this one's regeneration is magically done.
Oh yeah, because it's magical ogres. Only just call them ogre magi because they're innate, and they have the magical. They also have innate spellcasting, which is insane. Yeah, honestly,
like gaseous form is insane. For a large creature to turn itself into a gas
and
leave a situation,
and to go
or reposition itself, or
see ya. No.
Also, Cone of Cold's always really good. Charm Person's weirdly fucked up for this man to have.
Oh no, you already know. You already know. And sleep. So your character just good night, and then just abducts you in the middle of the night, and it's like, what the fuck? I will say, I think the only thing that has stopped me from using the Oni in a game so far is because of its challenge rating is so high, like just like outright. Because I was like, dude, that's so cool, and then I look and it's like, it can just like be a boss for level 2 or 3 party, and I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm like,
right, no, absolutely. It can I think this might be a similar situation where its CR rating is probably a better representation of something similar you can do with the Hags, whereas like this thing could like either be working with one or whatever it might be, but this is something, especially with its chain shape, with its Charm Person, with all those abilities, it can be a reoccurring enemy. It might be like a hunter for something. It might be, well, for whatever reason, it's harrying the party, and it doesn't have to show up just once.
Yeah.
And again, there's no reason that glaive can't be magically imbued.
Oh yeah, this would be a good creature to give it like items, like the Night Hag.
Yeah.
You give it some
just
items.
Beat the shit out of your party and make them thank you for it. Yes, you're right. There's two, just because I had to double check, there are 2 more Hags in the.
Here, let's.
With this one.
Let's check that out real quick, and then we'll call that good.
Sure, yeah.
What page is that on?
So when we have the Belhir. The Belhir Hag is at 160. I'm double checking where the other one is. I think they're about the same. But
Oh, it is. This is, I think, a cold hag. Yeah, right. They live in like the mountains. Yeah, covered snow mountains.
And that's why. Yes, that's why I brought it up, because it'd be a really good pairing for these two.
Yeah, because look at that. Yeah, it's a fae. Oh wait, are the OG hags, are they considered fae?
I believe so. If you have it open right there, that'd be helpful.
I'm gonna look real quick. 176.
Yeah, there is the Bowler hag, then there's the Antis hag, and the Antis hag is kind of a Shadowfell version of a hag.
Okay, yeah. Oh, whoa. Actually, did you know the Night Hag is a fiend?
Yes, I did know that.
And then
I didn't know that much.
The Sea Hag and the Green Hag are fae. Interesting.
Yes, I believe the Night hag is just a weirdly more fucked up hag.
Yeah.
Which is why I like him.
Got it.
I do like the look of the Antis hag quite a bit, because it's so if you up one page up.
Oh. What the fuck? Yo, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Yo, why does it say Child Corruptor? Hold on, what the fuck?
Because it do that though. What?
Tormenting the weak, Child Corruptor, Tribe Mother. Yo, what is this?
One of its actions is crushing hug.
Yo, why have I never seen this one before? What the fuck? Just snaps your neck.
It loves the puppy really hard. Hit 96 plus 5 bludgeoning damage. The target is grappled.
Yo, 96 bludgeoning damage is such a weird dice amount. I've never seen damage be 96.
Well, its challenge rating is 6. So this is one challenge rating above the Night Hag. Which I guess does make sense because it has spellcasting, Disguise Self, and Fog Cloud, but that's it. It doesn't have any of the polymorph abilities. It doesn't have any of the other spellcasting abilities. It is just a very physical hag.
Yeah.
Like, this hag's been on creatine for a while.
Dude, it looks like it did meth like in the back of an alley for a handful of years and then said, yo.
That's okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's also got that. Look how big its hand is. That's a normal sized skull. What the fuck? That thing's freaky. And
it's a large fae.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
I think it's the only of the hags that is large.
I was going to say.
It is a very physical hag.
Well, I was also noticing its languages are giant, and so I feel like this is a blend of like giant and hag. It's like, you know, like if they, like it's a mix of the two, kind of.
Oh yeah, but also
so cool.
The one I first highlighted, the Bear hag, the medium fae one, the actual spellcaster. That one is 7, but it has a lot more magic. It's pretty much all magic. It has a slam attack that is, it seems really just there to have an offensive ability.
Yeah,
but so many spells. Maddening Feast.
The hag feasts on the corpse of one enemy within 5 feet that die within the last minute. Each creature of the hag's choice does on a saving throw or be frightened of her for 1 minute. While frightened in this way, a creature is incapacitated, can't understand what others are saying, can't read, and speaks only in gibberish. The DM controls the. That's so crazy. A creature can repeat this.
That is a wild goddamn ability.
That is fucking freaky as shit, bro. This thing starts.
It eats somebody and creates a situation where you can't speak, you can't talk, you can't understand.
That's wild.
And the DM controls the creature's movement.
And the effect on itself. Yeah, that's wild. The creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each. Yeah, that's whoa.
I like that it's the hag is stopping its feasting, where the Remorhaz, it makes sense because it's like consuming food. The Devourer, it's getting hit points back, and it's like spawning a creature. This is just doing it to psych you out, and it does a good job.
Yeah.
Because it's a DC 15, so you should be able to pass. But well, depending on the class by a lot, you know. But if you don't, then of course it's spell casting. It has Cone of Cold, Ray of Frost, Hold Person, Ice Storm, Wall of Ice.
Well, something
it has.
Those spells are kind of insane, but I do like that the hag carries a gray staff, a length of gray wood that is focused for her power. She can ride the staff as if it were a broom of flying. While holding the staff, she can cast additional spells with her innate spellcasting. These spells are marked with an asterisk. If the spell is lost or destroyed, the hag must craft another one, which takes a year and a day. Holy shit. Only a behavior can use. That's actually really cool. I like how it has a built-in kind of item. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's all of its like strongest abilities. Ray of Frost, which is at will. Ice Storm, Wall of Ice, which is 3 times a day. Those are all tied to the staff. The ones that are marked with asterisks.
Is it the asterisk before or after? It's the it was before, yeah. So it's like asterisk. So it would need the staff for Ray of Frost, and then you need it for Ice Storm and Wall. Yeah. That's really cool.
I liked it a lot.
I like that a lot, and I like how they kind of added like a cool like mountain or like winter kind of hag, and then they're just like, hey, let's just add the maddening feast. Like it just starts fucking devouring something.
Yeah, we've been wanting to splash this one in
Yeah.
for a while. And really quick, because we've been focusing on hags so much, I do want to read this real quick. Hag.
All right, last one, and we'll
absolutely, because I am just wanting to get. I want to read the language on covens, what they say in D&D, because I do want to see what that translates into mechanically. Just in the Monsters Handbook here.
What was Hags on? It's on 176. Let's see.
So, Hag covens, a lot of stuff to read here.
Basically,
shared spell casting.
Yeah, that's actually kind of nuts. And then they can craft a magic item called a Haggai, which is made. The Haggai's usually entrusted to a minion for safekeeping and transport. A Haggai in the company can take an action to see what the Haggai sees if the Haggai is on the same plane. That's pretty cool. If it is destroyed, each coven member takes damage. That's pretty cool. So yeah, they basically get a shit ton of spells, and
that's a pretty. I might play with it if I ran a coven as like a force in the game, like add maybe some more stuff to it to make it more prominent.
Yeah.
But I do like it is a blanket all around, everybody gets a something. The only reason I wanted to look into that is because reading the language on that last hag, it did say CR7, if it's part of a coven, make it CR9.
Oh, so he gets more spells and stuff, probably.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Gotcha. Well, man, honestly, we'll have to do another one of these, man. Talking about monsters in D&D, yeah. I love it, and honestly, we'll see what the schedule, how it lines up. Maybe we'll do a Monsters Across the Many Planes Part 2 with Logan. Wouldn't mind doing that next episode potentially, but
I will just insist on if we're doing a Part 2, at least we gotta do a Part 3 when we're done with the Redmire.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I gotta lay out some stuff for you.
Well, I also want to do one of like homebrew monsters and kind of talking about stuff like that too. So, but that will conclude our first, at least, episode of covering monsters and whatnot. Kind of just our favorite monsters. We will definitely get into maybe more homebrew and maybe go, because I know that Connor mentioned potentially reaching into other tabletop games, and so that'd be cool to kind of bring to the forefront and give some love to other systems as well. But for the meantime, we thank you all so much for hanging out with us at the tavern, just chilling, kicking it. And just as a note, this upcoming Sunday will be no Redmire Hunt arc, sadly, because of some scheduling stuff. But we will be back next week, and we will be hitting and getting it. And so, yeah, just check the Twitch channel for the schedule. But until then, we appreciate you so much for hanging out. Nox does especially. Yeah, look at him. What a sweet boy. And but until next time, y'all take it easy, and we will see ya.
We'll see you. Have a good one.